Hi folks, this is a nice little slideshow of our 2018 trip to Scotland, and it'll be about 10 seconds per slide, but of course you can advance through things if you'd like. We're both map fans, so we always like to start planning our trip with an atlas and looking at Google Maps before we leave on any given trip. So when we arrived in Edinburgh, this is the Dean Village, which is kind of the old mill section of Edinburgh, and a beautiful, quaint little part of the city that many tourists don't visit. They actually had a working phone booth, something you would not find in America. In fact, we found working phone booths all over Scotland. It was pretty amazing. I had a bagpipe lesson with the Royal Tattoo. This is Connor Pratt, who's a master piper, and it was a fun hour of getting dressed up. Then we went on to the River Tay and did a couple of hours of fly fishing with Ian Kirk, who's the master gilly there. Super fun experience, super hard. We had a short stop in Kirriemuir, where they have a Bon Scott statue, because I'm a huge AC/DC fan. So it was fun to just pop in for a Sunday morning. Beautiful diversion to a place called Auchendorn Castle, and we literally had it all to ourselves. It's located up on a hillside, and it's a ruined castle, but as we walked up to it about a mile from the parking lot, we really had the whole place to ourselves, and it's situated on a hill with beautiful views. This is the Meldrum House, one of the places we stayed, I think on our second, third, or fourth night, I can't remember, but it's a beautiful old inn. A little bit of a dark picture here, but you can see Rochelle and I slightly in the foreground there. We really enjoyed our stay there. Oh, this is what's called a rape field of beautiful flowers and sky that Rochelle took. We saw these all over Scotland as we drove through the countryside. Up in Dundee, we stopped at the RSS Discovery, which is an old three-masted sailing ship. That was pretty neat. Walked around on the inside. Then it was on to Aberdeen for a chocolatier cooking lesson with Jamie Hutchin, who started the business when he was only 17 years old. He's 27 now, and runs this amazing place called Cocoa Ooze. So Rochelle was the chocolatier, and I was the photographer for the day. These are some of the chocolates that she made. And we came home with 2 boxes of them, and they're almost all gone inside of our tummies. So it was a good experience. And Jamie's a really sweet guy. You can see from his laugh here. It was so nice he came in on his day off to kind of give us a little chocolate making lesson. Really super fun experience. We went on from there to the Brewdog Brewery, which is a huge facility, thousands of square feet. Started by 2 brothers, literally kind of like a home brewing cottage industry. Now they've got almost 1,000 employees. They also have a manufacturing plant in Columbus, Ohio. So this was a really kind of fun tour to see them producing all of their beer. And of course we had a nice tasting before the tour and then after the tour. Not too much though, because we had to drive on to our next destination, but it was a really pretty neat experience to see this big brewery, and you'll see a smaller one right at the end of this slideshow too. We stopped at the Ben Morach Distillery and got kind of a nice private little tour there with Craig and Christy, and they showed us their facility, which is pretty great too. In Nairn we had dinner at a fantastic place called the Schoolhouse. This is Cullen Skink, which is like a fish stew. And then finally in Glencoe, we went down a nice little road called the Glen Etive Road, which is about 11 miles long in each direction. It takes about an hour each way, and we had stayed at the Clackhaig Inn, which was a repeat for us, kind of a place for hikers and backpackers and mountain climbers and outdoor adventurists. But this is kind of the shot going down Glen Etive, and it's some of the most beautiful country in Glencoe you've ever seen. Not many tourists go down this road, and at the end, this is the Glen Etive Loch. So we had a couple of campers down there take our picture, which was great. What a fun drive, and just incredibly beautiful part of Glencoe, beautiful part of Scotland, and kind of a hidden gem that not a lot of other tourists go to, so we really enjoyed that. And of course, we stopped and took lots of pictures. Lots of campers had their tents right next to the river that goes down to the Etive Loch. We actually saw an American car. It was the General Lee from the Dukes of Hazzard. This guy had purchased the car online and had it delivered from Texas to Scotland. And then we stopped at the White House restaurant. This is on our next day of travels, and met with Sarah, the owner there, and her chefs, and had this amazing cheese board. Rochelle had like a little fish plate. We had a couple of nice cold beers before our ferry over to the Isle of Mull, and they were just so warm and welcoming. Great staff, and one of the best meals we had in Scotland. Considering it was for lunch, it was just simply fantastic. This is our little tiny ferry that went from, I think I've got this right, Loch Lane over to Craigmore, over on the Isle of Mull. It's a short little ferry ride, about like 10 minutes at the most. Lots of passing places in Scotland. There's a sign for that. This is how you get by somebody. You pull over in a passing place and then they zip by you. Rochelle had a nice walk. Once we arrived at the Isle of Mull in Fionafort, she had a nice walk that evening while I was working away on the computer and took some of these really great sunset photos. That's the little harbor that's at the end of Fionafort. And the next day we actually caught a ferry from Fionafort over to Staffa, the Isle of Staffa, which is where Fingal's Cave is. But all these pictures are from Rochelle's sunset walk, and of course, now that I'm looking at them, I'm kicking myself that I didn't go on the walk with her. So here we are finally on our little boat that goes over to the Isle of Staffa. It can actually hold like about 70 people, though we only had about 25 people on our cruise that day. It was really nice. You get to see porpoises, all sorts of different birds out in the ocean. It's about a maybe 45-minute, an hour ride. This is the Isle of Staffa. Look at the amazing rock formations, and that's Fingal's Cave on the right side of the picture. Really just fantastic. And the boat drops you off. You get about an hour and a half on the Isle of Staffa. Rochelle was extremely excited about seeing the puffins that day, as I was. And here it is. Here's a puffin. They are so tame. These cute little birds. They're a little bit smaller than a seagull. And they'll actually come up within about 5, 6, 7 feet of you. So Rochelle just simply sat and enjoyed. I took a few photographs as well. We actually captured some video, which we'll put up on our YouTube channel shortly. And it's just amazing to be so close to this colorful wildlife. They're like little clown birds that hop around on the grass, and they burrow into holes in the side of the cliff. I took a quick walk down to Fingal's Cave. Rochelle didn't have time to do that, but you can see the amazing kind of rock formations that are just literally like right off the edge. And here's our little boat, which took us out to the Isle of Staffa and then back again, sort of loading everybody up here to leave. And one more shot of the Isle of Staffa and Fingal's Cave directly in the middle here. Really fun, cool experience. I'm so glad we did it. I get to sit in the wheelhouse with Davey and Gordon, who are like the two guys that have been running the business for gosh, 3-4 decades now, and that was really neat. We went over to Iona, which is a little isle right off Fionafort, a lot closer than the Isle of Staffa, and visited a nunnery. This is the Tyroran house on the Isle of Mull, which was getting closer, about 2/3 of the way through our trip, 3/4 of the way through. And Rochelle had a beautiful walk through their grounds. They've just got amazingly manicured grounds and just beautiful, beautiful scenery. The Tyroran house is a little bit old-fashioned. It's got what's called a red room, and of course this is the red room, and it was followed by the blue room. So we sat in there and had a nice before-dinner drink, which was great and kind of relaxed. It was good to take a little break from the driving, because we had done a lot of driving on this trip. And that's Lawrence. He's the owner of Tyroran House. Super friendly guy. He's got a little gift shop up on the hill where we went and got some sandwiches for lunch the next day. This is just me being a goofball out in the countryside. Mull was so nice to drive through. We had lots of places to just pull over and take a picture. Beautiful waterfronts all around the edge of the Isle of Mull as we kind of toured around clockwise to get back to Craignere, where we would take our ferry over to Oban. And you can see how narrow this road is on the cliffside right there on the Isle of Mull. Once again, you pull over at a passing place to jump out. We hiked up a pretty steep hill to another abandoned castle called the Arras Castle, where practically nobody visits. We got a little bit scratched up getting up there, but it was super fun. Once again, Rochelle and I love maps, so sometimes she would stage a shot with the map held up in the background. This is the ferry over to Oban. We stopped at another abandoned castle, not abandoned, but sort of rundown castle called Kilchurn Castle. This was between Oban and Loch Lomond, and a little bridge. It's about a mile walk from the parking lot to the castle, and we had the whole place to ourselves. We were there after hours, so it had kind of closed, but it was just perfect. So then we tootled down Loch Lomond and had a fantastic but short stay at the lodge at Loch Lomond. It's funny here, you can see our map goes off into the water. Once again, I put one of my Hostjabok stickers on the back of our rental car, but I only did it temporarily, so it wasn't anything permanent. But then finally back to Glasgow, where we visited the Clydeside Distillery. This was a really cool experience. Brand new distillery with one of the best whiskey shops we'd been in. And this is Ross, who was our tour guide. This was a really fun experience. They had sort of refurbished the whole place. And of course we had a little tasting at the end, which was very, very nice. So if you get a chance to visit Glasgow, go to the Clydeside Distillery. This is the famous fireman's statue in downtown Glasgow. This is only a couple of blocks from our hotel, which was the Indigo Hotel. A little bit of rain. We had 10 days of perfect weather. This is the tenement house, which is a perfectly preserved house. Kind of goes back almost 60 years in time. And you can walk into this woman's house. Her name was Mrs. Toward. And everything is preserved almost as a living time capsule, and it's a museum where you can actually go in and touch things. It's totally amazing. Run by the National Trust of Scotland. It's a non-profit organization, but we were so glad we got to do this because the last time we were in Scotland, they were closed for some renovations. So, but really pretty amazing experience. And this was Ava, who was our tour guide, and she also stayed after hours. We had so many generous people that kind of helped us out with that throughout the trip. So it was really fantastic. And then on our last night, we went to the Drygate Brewery, which is also in Glasgow, and got a little mini tour around that facility. I think it was our third brewery. And of course, we had to have a tasting of flights of beer at the end of the night, so it was like the perfect way to sort of end our fantastic Scottish experience. And then the cab driver that took us back let me sit in the driver's seat and make a curse you tourists kind of gesture, but hey, we're tourists ourselves. So Hostjabok in Scotland means please hurry back, so we did indeed Hostjabok.